All right, so let's continue with our discussion on convex functions and definite matrices. So, in the last video, I had stated a very important theorem, uh, which which says that if a function is convex, if and only if its Hessian is positive, at least positive semi-definite is positive semi-definite all over the set S. Of course, the set S, the function f is defined from set S to real line. The set S is convex and the set S is non-empty, and the set S was taken to be a open set for technical reasons as I explained in the last class. So we are having a function S from R. The function is convex. The set is open, non-empty, convex, and this this is equivalent to saying and f is twice differentiable. This is not all convex functions have to be twice differentiable. This theorem only deals with those convex functions which are twice differentiable. For example, f of x is equal to mod of x is twice differentiable. Everywhere is a convex function. Is uh, example convex function. This is uh, is twice differentiable everywhere except x equal to 0. So, and of course, the real line is a open set. So, open real line is a which indicates the set here is a open set, and it is convex. So, everything about this theorem is said is true here. But the only thing is, it cannot be applied at x equal to 0. It cannot be applied because at x is equal to 0, the function is not twice differentiable. Everywhere else, the differential is actually 0. Second derivative is 0. So what is our theorem is that if the function is twice differentiable and convex over a open non-empty convex set S, then this is equivalent to, that means this is a if and only if condition. This happens if and only if the Hessian matrix. What is the Hessian matrix? The matrix of the second derivative of, so S being a subset of Rn, the Hessian matrix is a n cross n matrix of second partial derivatives is at least positive semi-definite. So therefore, a way to check convexity, a matrix way of checking convexity is to check if the function is, if the Hessian matrix is positive definite or not, or rather positive semi-definite or not. So therefore, we have to understand what the positive semi-definiteness means. So we defined that also in the last class. We said that uh, symmetric, a Hessian matrix is actually anyway symmetric. So a matrix H, n cross n matrix H and n cross n matrix is positive definite if this is greater than 0 for all x not equal to 0. What is greater than 0? X transpose Hx. Or last time I used H transpose Hd is greater than or equal to 0 for all d not equal to 0. Of course, if you set d 0, then it will be 0. There is nothing big thing about it. If it is, if it follows this requirement of being greater than or equal to 0, then we say that it is positive semi-definite. And if minus h is positive definite, is then we say that h is negative definite. And if minus h is positive semi-definite, then we say h is negative semi-definite. Otherwise, if none of this happens, then there will be some d1 vector such that this is greater than 0, and for some another vector d2 such that this is less than 0, which indicates that the matrix is indefinite. So this deals with the quadratic form H transpose H x. Now, of course, you cannot scan all the directions D and therefore check this. So the definition can directly be checked only for some trivial conditions. Like for example, I said last time I said that okay, let's say this is the identity matrix. So if you take the identity matrix, then this is going to be equal to x1 square plus x2 square, which is greater than 0 for all x1, x2 not equal to 0. That means that both the coordinates are not 0, then since it is the sum of the squares, you can easily see that it will be greater than 0. But for other cases, how do you check? So suppose I have a diagonal matrix with values lambda 2 to lambda n, and I want to check whether it is positive definite or not. So what I will do, I'll multiply it by d vector on the right hand side and transpose of the d vector on the left hand side, which simplifies to d1 d2 to dn times lambda 1 d1 lambda 2 d2 to lambda n dn, which is nothing but equal to lambda 1 d1 square plus lambda 2 d2 square and so on up to lambda n dn square. Now suppose all lambda i's are greater than 0, then it is clear that if the vector d is not equal to 0, then you are looking at sum of non-negative terms with at least one term positive. So therefore this matrix will be symmetric, positive, definite. Anyway, diagonal matrix is symmetric. Now suppose all lambda i's are greater than or equal to 0. Then what will happen? For example, you could have a matrix like this. A simple example is 0 and 1. So you will have 0 d1 square plus lambda 2 square, not sorry, plus lambda 2 is taken here as 1. So you will have plus d2 square. So this is greater than or equal to 0 for all d not equal to 0. Why? Because if you take d1 as 1 0, you can get a 1, you can get a 0 value, and for every other d, this number will be 0 d2 because and for every other d, which means that it doesn't matter what the d1 is, and d2 is non-zero. So therefore this is going to be equal to d2 square, which will be always greater than 0. So therefore what is this matrix? This matrix is positive semi-definite. On the other hand, if you look at 0 minus 1, it is negative semi-definite, and if you look at 1 minus 1, it is indefinite matrix. And if you look at minus 1, it is going to be a negative definite matrix. So this is easy. So uh, one way of checking positive definite matrices is to do some kind of a similarity transformation, which I will bring out very soon, and convert a symmetric matrix to a diagonal matrix, and then infer the positive definiteness from that. But we'll defer that for the some time. We'll first do some say other characterizations, and then I'll come to this characterization. Now, first property that I want you to very clearly understand is any n cross n real symmetric matrix, any n cross n real symmetric matrix has all by that I mean n n in number, all real eigenvalues. So question, what is a eigenvalue? So the definition is a vector V is called an eigenvector. So you always talk of eigenvalue, eigenvector pair is called an eigenvector corresponding to this scalar. The scalar is called the eigenvalue, and this vector in Rn is called uh, uh, eigenvector. They always come in pair if AV is equal to lambda V. That means when you pre-multiply the matrix, pre-multiply the vector V by the matrix A, then in going from the domain to the range, the domain is a n cross n vector, set of n cross n vectors, range is also a set of n cross n vectors. There is a invariance in the sense that the direction of the vector has not changed. It's however is scaled by factor lambda. So lambda can be negative or positive both. But if you are here, let's say this is your or let's say this is your vector, it may become this, it may become this, or it may go in this, but it will not shift somewhere here. So that is not going to happen. It can be scaled, um, but it gets scaled, that's all. Nothing more happens. There is no angular shift in the sense of shifting by 30 degrees and then scaling by a factor of 5 or something like that. Direction remains same. 0 degrees or 180 degrees is the same. In my talk is means the same direction here, but the length may get altered, and so you will get AV is equal to lambda V. Vectors which satisfy such characteristic of are called eigenvectors, and the corresponding scaling factor is called the eigenvalue. So I can write this as AV minus lambda V is equal to 0, or A minus in matrix form A minus lambda I times of V is equal to 0 vector, which basically means that this matrix is singular or non-invertible, because if you are multiplying it with a vector which is a non-zero vector. So yes, one thing which I should have mentioned very clearly, that eigenvectors are non-zero vectors. When you multiply it with a non-zero vector and it gets mapped to 0, then it means that the matrix is singular. Because now what happens is, no more invertible. Invertible functions or transformations require 1, 1 and onto property. This does not give you a 1, 1 property. For example, a vector V also goes to 0, then 2V also goes to 0. So coming back, I won't know whether it is V, 2V or what else it is, or it could be multiple vectors also mapping to 0. So therefore, the invertibility property is now gone. And usually when this happens, when a square matrix is not invertible, we know that its determinant has to be 0. So therefore, uh, uh, a common way of checking of so therefore what we do is, so minus of that determinant is also going to be 0. So to compute eigenvalues for 2 by 2 and 3 by 3 kind of examples, this approach does not scale up in terms of efficiency for large matrices, but otherwise to calculate eigenvalues, what we do is we take determinant of lambda I minus a. This is called the characteristic polynomial, or if you want, you can write it as, some people prefer to use a variable s, uh, s also. This is called the characteristic polynomial. You take a characteristic polynomial and then evaluate the this determinant is a characteristic polynomial. So it would be something like it's nth degree polynomial a into s n min to the degree n minus 1 plus a2 to the power n minus 2 an minus 1 s plus an, and set this to 0. Calculate its roots, and the roots are the eigenvalues. So now, because this is a characteristic polynomial, is a nth degree polynomial in real numbers, you will have either real roots or roots will appear in terms of complex conjugate pairs, which means that if 5 plus j3 is a root, 5 minus j3 will also be another root. It will never happen that you have just a root of 5 plus j3 and not the other root, because then if you evaluate back this polynomial, it will turn out to be a complex polynomial and not a real polynomial. So, or roots could be like repeating 5 5 minus 1 or different like minus 1 2.1, anything. So everything is possible. So if there are n such roots, essentially this characteristic polynomial can now be written as s minus lambda 1 into s minus lambda 2 into s minus lambda n equal to 0. Trivial example, identity matrix. All the ones on the diagonals represent eigenvalues, and the columns e1, e2 to en eigenvectors, because a times of ei is equal to 1 times of ei, where a is the identity matrix here. So every column, first column of identity matrix, second column of identity matrix, each one of them is an eigenvector, and one is the eigenvalue which repeats n number of times. So in this case, the characteristic polynomial will be s minus 1 to the power n is equal to 0. So this is going to be your characteristic polynomial. If you have a diagonal matrix d1, d2 to dn, and you look at the characteristic polynomial, it is nothing but characteristic polynomial of a is also shown by this symbol, will be s minus d2 to, I'm sorry, product s minus dn, which means that for diagonal values, for a diagonal matrix, diagonals are the roots or eigenvalues. So so the diagonals are the roots or eigenvalues, and again eigenvectors are e1, e2 to en. Now suppose the matrix is a triangular matrix, let's say upper triangular matrix u1 to 2, u1n, u2 to u2n, and so on up to unn. Now if you write its character, if you write Si minus A corresponding matrix, then it is going to be S minus U11 minus U12 to minus U1n, S minus U22, then U minus U23, and so on up to minus of U2n, and so on up to S minus UNN. And now if you look at the determinant of this, which will give you the characteristic polynomial, then you expand the determinant of it. So what you will do is, you will first, for example, take s into u minus 1 and then look at the determinant of this. So and every other thing will So you expand to calculate this determinant, you go column wise. So first term will be s minus, so this is going to be s minus u11 into determinant of s minus u22 up to s minus unn, and then this is minus u23 to minus u2n, and in this case the last one is anyway going to be this. So this is the determinant that you are, and then after that you will take a term with respect to 0 and then the minor, but it doesn't matter. Then you will come to this 0 and then it's minor, so it doesn't matter. So if you expand it column wise, this determinant, it's going to be just this. So therefore, in the next step, you have to expand on the determinant of this n minus 1 matrix. But this is also n minus, this is also upper triangular matrix. So when you expand on its determinant, it is going to be s minus u11 into the next time you will take s minus u22, because you are again going to do a column wise expansion, and then here onwards it will be s minus u33 to minus u3n and so on up to s minus unn. Now you are going to look at n minus, first time this was calculated as n minus 1 into n minus 1 matrix. Now you will get this as n minus 2 into n minus 2 matrix. And so if you keep doing this, you will just get s minus unn, which means that the lambda ith eigenvalue is nothing but equal to uii. So therefore, diagonals of a, and the same will apply, same thing should come true if you have a lower triangular matrix. So therefore, diagonals of a upper triangular matrix or lower triangular matrix are again corresponding eigenvalues of the, are the corresponding eigenvalues of these matrices. So therefore, this part is also quite straightforward, that this is what is going to be their eigenvalues. Now, one more property is that determinant of A is nothing but the product of its eigenvalues. So I am not proving this straight away, but the determinant of a matrix is also the product of its eigenvalues, which means to say that if any matrix has a zero eigenvalue one or more times repeating, then its determinant is 0, which implies that it is a singular matrix. Conversely, if determinant E is not equal to 0, which is non-singular matrix, all lambda i's will be non-zero. So all the lambda i's will be non-zero matrices. So this is connects eigenvalues to the determinant of the matrix, and therefore you can also say that determinant of of a upper triangular or a lower triangular matrix is nothing but the product of the diagonals of the corresponding matrices. Incidentally, sum of eigenvalues is also called. All right, let's not get into this. Let's now come back to the real symmetric matrix. Now, an interesting property with real symmetric matrix is it has n eigenvalues, all real. This is very interesting property that it has, that it's all the eigenvalues are real. Let me illustrate this for a 2 by 2 matrix. I am not going to prove it, but let us take A, B, B, and yeah, let's take the other diagonal as T. So now, if I write its uh, if I write its characteristic polynomial, so which is Si minus of A, then this is going to be the determinant of S minus A, S minus D, minus B, and minus B, which is S minus A into S minus D minus B square, which you expand, if which you expand, then this is S square minus A plus D times of S, uh, yeah, minus of B square. So if you set it to 0, what are its roots? Minus of B, which is A plus D, plus minus under root of B square, which is A plus D whole square, minus 4AC, so minus 4A times of C. This is going to be plus of 4B square, because there is a excuse me, there is a minus sign sitting here, so plus 4B square divided by 2. So take the A plus D out common, A plus D into by 2 into 1 plus minus square root of 1 plus 2b by A plus D whole square. So now you can very clearly see that this square root always exists. Like for example, this could be 2.1, and let's say this A plus D is just 2. Say some number, that's all to calculate. So let's say this A plus D is A plus D is 2. So 2 by 2 will become 1. So then what will happen to your eigenvalues? It will become 1 plus minus under root of 2.1 in that case, which means 1 minus under root of 2.1, two eigenvalues, and 1 plus under root of 2.1. So one positive eigenvalue, one negative eigenvalue in this case. If this was, if this term here was only 0.01, then what would have happened? 1 plus zero point 0.1, that is 1.1, 1 minus zero point 0.1, which is 0.9. So in that case, you would have got two positive eigenvalues if A plus D was uh, positive, and so on. So the point what I am trying to say is, if you we just check that for a 2 cross 2 matrix, the eigenvalues are going to be real, could be both positive, could be both negative, could be one positive, could be one negative. Everything is possible, and it could also be all the four possibilities are existing in this particular case. Of course, when I do this division, just be careful. Na? When I do this division, it means I am assuming that this is not equal to 0. Otherwise, this division cannot be done. So if it is 0, you will have to just restrict to this form, which also shows that it is still a non-negative number under the square root. So therefore, the square root exists, and therefore, the two eigenvalues are always going to be real numbers. So this what we saw for the 2 cross 2 symmetric matrix actually holds true for even a n cross n symmetric matrix. So all the eigenvalues are real. Now there is a important decomposition called Skur's decomposition, which states that a real symmetric matrix, this is a real symmetric matrix, can be written as product of a matrix Q which is orthogonal times a diagonal matrix lambda times the transpose of this. Now, what is a orthogonal matrix? A orthogonal matrix is an n cross n matrix such that Q transpose Q is equal to Q transpose is equal to identity. That means two things. Q transpose is Q inverse and all columns stroke rows are orthogonal. That is perpendicular to each other. So therefore, if you look at Q transpose AQ, this is nothing but the diagonal matrix where if you say, let's say call this as some matrix A, which is same as saying that Q inverse AQ is the same as this lambda, which can be used to conclude that this diagonal matrix is the this diagonal matrix is the these diagonals are the eigenvalues of A. I'll tell you why. Suppose you have a similarity. This X is a n cross n matrix, and X inverse AX is usually said to be a similarity transformation because it keeps invariance of the eigenvalues. So therefore, let's say that this is this is called usually a similarity transformation because it preserves eigenvalues. So if all the eigenvalues are preserved, then what does it means? The two matrices, the characteristic polynomial of A and the characteristic polynomial of x inverse AX should be same, is it not? So let's verify that. X of A, the characteristic polynomial of A is nothing but determinant of Si minus A, but this I can also write it as determinant of S. Instead of identity, I will write XX inverse minus of A. Now I will take X out from the left side and X inverse out from the right side. So therefore you can see that because I have taken X out from the left side, I got a X inverse coming here, and I took X inverse out from the right side. So therefore I got X coming here. So X inverse is identity and X inverse is identity. So when you again bring them back, you will get only the A matrix, and here only X inverse will come. So it will remain as identity itself. Now determinant of the product of three matrices is the determinant of the product of the determinant of the individual matrices, and determinant of X inverse is 1 by determinant of X. Reciprocal of is always the reciprocal, and therefore and is a non-zero, right? Because it is an invertible matrix, the determinant is non-zero. So I can just cancel this, which makes it equal to which is nothing but the characteristic polynomial of X inverse XA AX. So therefore, similarity transformation does not alter the eigenvalue. So if you could find a similarity transformation which consists of orthogonal matrices, so because in the orthogonal matrix the transpose itself is the inverse such that it diagonalize the matrix. So the point what we are talking about saying here is that when the similarity transformation makes the matrix diagonal, so therefore it diagonalizes the matrix, then such a transformation has been shown to exist for real symmetric matrices and is called a Sker's decomposition. So now that we know about the Sker's decomposition, this is equivalent to post multiplying both the sides by uh, the matrix Q and using the fact that Q transpose Q is identity, you get AQ equal to Q times this diagonal matrix. Now look at this Q as a collection of n column vectors Q1, Q2 to Qn. Then this is equivalent to saying that A times Q1, A times Q2, second column, last column, A times Qn is same as, this is again uh, post multiplying, the Q matrix is written as a collection of n columns Q1, Q2 to Qn times the diagonals lambda 2 to lambda 1 to lambda n, and this you expand this is nothing but lambda 1 Q1, lambda 2 Q2 and so on up to lambda n Qn, which means that if you uh, equate this column to this column, you will get AQ1 is equal to lambda 1 Q1, and similarly if you keep on AQ2 will be equal to lambda 2 Q2, equating second column on the left hand side matrix with the second column of the right hand side matrix, and so on up to the last one where AQN is equal to lambda n Qn, which basically means that in the Sker's decomposition this matrix Q is nothing but collection of eigenvectors. So what we are actually saying here is that for a symmetric matrices we are saying two things. Real symmetric matrices we are saying two things. One, uh, all eigenvalues are real. Two, it is diagonalizable because there is a similarity transformation which makes it diagonal. So all the eigenvalues are nothing but the diagonal values. Three, the eigenvectors are orthogonal. Orthogonal means perpendicular. If you have two vectors, say d1 and x and y in n-dimensional vectors x and y, then the angle of between the two vectors can be written as, let's say, the x transpose y divided by the Euclidean of length of x vector and length of y vector. So if x transpose y is 0, then it means that cos of theta is 0, which means that theta is plus minus 90 degree, which means that the two vectors are orthogonal to each other. So therefore, uh, all we have done is, and eigenvector can make 5 times on the left hand side and 5 times on the right hand side. That doesn't make any difference. So usually we take the length of eigenvectors, normalize it to unity. That's why they become, in this case, they are already perpendicular. Once we normalize their length to unity, they become orthogonal. So essentially, this is equivalent to saying that if, say, this is my x and y plane, and if in a two-dimensional 2 by 2 matrix, if these are the two eigenvectors q1 and q2, then the angle between the two of them will be 90 degrees. So this is as good as saying that instead of choosing x and y or I or and j as coordinate axes, if I would have chosen coordinate axes as q1 and q2, then the corresponding matrix A in this new coordinate frame would have turned out to be diagonal matrix with diagonal values lambda 1 and lambda 2. So now it is clear that suppose let's come back to positive definiteness of symmetric matrices. So it is now clear that if uh, if a matrix is positive definite, then all its eigenvalues should be positive. Is it not? Why? because sub AV is equal to lambda V. So V transpose AV is equal to lambda V transpose V. Since eigenvector is taken by me to be unit length, so this becomes lambda. So if this matrix is positive definite, then V transpose AV should be strictly greater than 0, which means that the lambda should be greater than 0. So this is the requirement for symmetric positive definite matrix. If it is uh, if it is a semi-definite positive semi-definite matrix, then the right hand side should be greater than or equal to 0. So therefore what we can say, eigenvalues of symmetric positive definite matrices are greater than 0. Eigenvalues of positive semi-definite matrices are greater than or equal to 0. And incidentally, what can you say about determinant of A? That will also be greater than or equal to 0. In fact, I can actually say that uh, if I have a n cross n matrix which is positive symmetric positive definite, okay, A1 A2 an A21, sorry, A12 A22 to A2n an1 to, I'm sorry, 3 to an2 to an. If I have a symmetric matrix like this, symmetric means of course this has to be equal to this and so on. Then if I restrict, okay, some initial coordinates to 0, let's say some initial coordinates to 0 here, and this to something called x tilde, and I similarly do this transpose thing here, 0 transpose 0 transpose this, then it will, if you expand this, this will be, because the corresponding columns are corresponding to these zeros, the columns are weighted by zeros in the initial part and in the later part, and then next time when I look at this part, then the corresponding this is going to be weighted by 0, and second times this part of it will be weighted by 0. So this is going to be equal to some reduced matrix, let's say AKK to AKN and so on up to A, let's say some JJ, sorry, JK to AJJ. So where this is like say, so based upon this restriction, I'll get something like this, which means that I'm looking at another principal submatrix of this particular types times of this. So obviously if A matrix is positive definite, then even for this choice, this number should turn out to be strictly greater than 0 because x is greater than 0, which means that this should also be a positive definite matrix, which means that for all such principal submatrices, the corresponding determinant should also be greater than 0. So uh, if you come to 2 by 2 matrix symmetric, multiply it by 1 0 1 0, you will get A. If the matrix is positive definite, A should be greater than 0. If it is positive semi-definite, A should be greater than or equal to 0. Multiply it by A B B D 0 1 0 1. What will you get? D, which means that this should be greater than 0 if it is positive definite. Otherwise, it should be greater than or equal to 0 if it is positive semi-definite. So, so in this case, there are three principal submatrices. One is this, and the third one is the full matrix. So, like this, you could take say the like this. You could also talk about uh, 3 by 2 or rather 3 by 3 matrix. Principal submatrices would be, for example, A11, A22, A33. Then in terms of 2 by 2 matrices, A11, A12, A21, A22, A22, A23, A32, A33. Then first and third column and first and third row put together, and I think I have covered the three C2 combinations, which are 3, and then 3C3 combination is only 1, which is the original matrix itself. So all these matrices should be, if this matrix is symmetric positive definite, all these matrices should be symmetric positive definite. So all their determinants also should be greater than 0. So this is another property of the uh, positive definite matrices. So now you have come to some conclusion on how you can go about checking a matrix is positive definite, especially if you are dealing with 2 by 2 or 3 by 3 kind of cases in the classroom kind of examples. What you should do is just calculate eigenvalues. That's one approach. Check if it is greater than or equal to 0. If it is greater than or equal to 0, it is positive semi-definite. If it is strictly greater than 0, then it is positive definite. Or for the 3 by 3 case, you should evaluate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 determinants, about determinants, and use the determinant row way and check its positive definiteness. If all these determinants are uh, if all these determinants are greater than 0, then it is symmetric positive definite. If it is greater than or equal to 0, it is positive semi-definite. If it's a 2 by 2 matrix, then simple. For a 2 by 2 matrix, what you should look, A is greater than 0 for positive definiteness, D is greater than 0, and AD minus B square, which is the characteristic equation for A, B, B, D, AD minus B square, I'm sorry, which is the determinant. The third thing is that this determinant should also be greater than 0. These three things you should check in this particular case, or then calculate otherwise the two eigenvalues and check the two eigenvalues are greater than 0. Here calculate the three eigenvalues and check those eigenvalues are greater than 0. There is one more way one could go about it, which is through LU factorization, but that's not the way I am going to take in this class now. So this is what I recommend on checking positive definiteness of some simple small matrices that we come across on a day-to-day basis. Okay, thank you. Let's take a break here.